about not a very happy topic, not a very enjoyable topic.
You're going to talk about a non-happy topic?
Yes.
Okay. We can handle it.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about physical abuse. So I wanted to point out something. This what I give you guys here. I know it's very hard to read. I'm sure probably many of you are not going to be able to read it because it's very bad copies and it's also Hebrew, and but it's straight out of the Shulchan Aruch because I felt there would be more that you could see it in the Shulchan Aruch itself, can understand the potency of it. It's not just of hashkafa. It's not just we remember that there's something called halacha and hashkafa. So when I say halacha there is what you're allowed to do, what the law is, and then hashkafa is what you should be doing. It's, in other words, we don't always want to fall back on what the halacha says. There's sometimes there's also the hashkafa, what a person should do, what they shouldn't do. So I want to first say, in my travelings, I've seen a lot of different opinions about this. We have a very big problem today. It's not just today, but it's always been a problem. And there's something called marital abuse, abuse of a spouse, right? Where a person might get hit by their spouse. This, of course,
is just about physical, mental.
Well, mental is also mental too. Let's talk about that also. But I wanted to first mention. You see, it says in the Gemara, it says in Shulchan Aruch that number one, we should find it says, for example, it says a person should try to marry off his daughter to a Talmid Chacham. Talmid Chacham means someone who studies Torah. And the reason that's given is a very strange one. It says because otherwise you are giving your daughter to a situation that perhaps could be abusive. Because in those types of times, ancient times, it was very common practice to be abusive. It says it's like you're taking a person and tying them up in front of a lion, and a lion that would it says that they would hit, and they would force marital activities, intimacy, and this was unfortunately kind of a common thing. Well, no. It says the Gemara uses the word lion. It says it's koifshay. It's like tying up a person in front of a lion that a lion will hit and eat, right? So likewise, such a husband would hit and do other things. So we find, unfortunately, today we do find abuse in marriage. Yes, the world is very much more open-minded these days. There's a lot more, people are not living in a bubble, and women were not created to be abused, and people understand that and learn that, know that. But unfortunately, it still is prevalent. It still exists, and so I wanted to point out something that you look at. So this is the page of Shulchan Aruch Siman Kuf Nun Daled.
What makes it a Talmid Chacham is not going to do it?
What makes it good point. So it says that a Talmid Chacham, someone who studies Torah, is going to know what the Torah says, and is going to be in a higher spiritual awareness and realize that it's sinful to hurt a human being. That's going to be based on his awareness of Torah awareness. When someone studies Torah, he's going to be more spiritually astute.
But usually, if they're abusive to the wife outside, they're normal. That's
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
People, they're not abusing other people.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. But whether it's a wife or anyone, they're gonna realize that it's improper, that it's a sin to do that.
No, but even the ones that are not learning, and if they're abusing, it's just their wife. They're not going to.
Right, of course, exactly right, because the wife is vulnerable. But I'm saying is with the abuser, if he's a Torah scholar, so we would say he would realize the sinful aspect in it, and he would refrain from that type of any type of a and that type of a.
Not necessarily is he.
Right, you would hope.
Anchor problem. He may know in his head that something's wrong, but still he's mad.
Right, that's true. So I guess what the Talmud was saying back then is
Torah has an effect on your mediums, I guess.
also, the learning Torah has an effect on your mediums, exactly, and also it has an effect on your character and effect on your on knowing what's right and wrong. So when someone learns Torah, it says that by marrying off your daughter to a man who knows Torah, she's going to have a better life. Meaning to say, it's going to be more civil in the home, less abuse, less.
They follow what it says.
Right, and now So now the point is, well, you could say, well, do people nowadays, can you call a regular from guy a Torah scholar? You know, I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if we could say that. I wish we could say that. Unfortunately, today we're in a very we are in a very low generation. We've been, and we're not. We unfortunately today, your average religious Jew is not necessarily a Torah scholar. Probably isn't. I say, well, when I look
What
for
is a Torah scholar?
when I look well nowadays, what is a Torah scholar in those days meant? Someone who devoted his entire life to studying Torah. That was his calling in life.
That means that pretty much only the wealthy fathers could marry off their daughters then.
Right. The tragedy of it was that you had
So if you were poor, you had to put up with being abused to begin from a poor
right.
family.
Unfortunately, that was sad. Right. Or
It's not very fair.
it was very sad those days. Right. In those days. Now.
Explain the end of what you're saying.
So what I'm trying to say is, okay. So I'm trying to say is that when I'm going to go into 770 in a few years and start looking for my daughter, I'm looking for the person as close as possible I can get to a Torah scholar. Nowadays, I don't know if we can call anyone a Torah scholar, but I'm going to look for that. That's outside. That's not inside. I look at the guys. I'm looking at them. I study them. I lift my head.
Got the drone set up in there.
I'm like going like that. Yeah. Okay. So okay. There's another thing. It's interesting. It says that the Torah matisha kach adam. It says the Torah weakens the power of the man. It says that Torah scholars are going to be at a physical. They're going to be at a physical disadvantage as far as strength is concerned. That's one of the great miracles of Hanukkah. That these guys who were really officially Torah scholars were winning wars, and they were actually weaker. We have the famous story of Reish Lakish. I don't know if I mentioned it before. I probably did. The famous duo of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan was he was a student of Rabbi Rabbeinu HaKadosh, who was the author of the Mishnah. Very, very special, very famous scholar. And in his time there was another guy. His name was Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. We call him Reish Lakish. Reish means like the head, or the captain, the top. And interestingly, this guy, Reish Lakish, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, was like a criminal. He was like a bandit. And in fact, he was the head of the bandits. He was a very powerful man. He robbed people. That was his job. That's what he did. And the Gemara tells us at one time, Rabbi Yochanan was bathing. Rabbi Yochanan says was a very beautiful person. He himself, it says he was so beautiful, so good looking, Rabbi Yochanan, that it says he was one of the most handsome people who ever lived. The Gemara says the reason why he wasn't counted. There's actually an interesting Talmudic passage. It says the most good looking people who ever lived, and it lists them. And it says, well, there was Rabbi Avohu, and he was so amazingly good looking, and he actually was me'ain something Rav Kana. Rav Kana was something like Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu was such a handsome person, but he wouldn't compare. He was only a me'ain, somewhat of the beauty of Adam Rishon. Adam Rishon was his greatest, most incredibly good-looking person. Rabbi Yochanan was not listed in that list. So the Gemara says, well, one second, if he was such a good-looking person, why wasn't he listed? So the Gemara says, well, because he didn't have the countenance of a beard. He didn't have the beard.
No beard.
He had a beard with a beard. He was physically good-looking.
His beard was wimpy.
He had a wimpy beard. He didn't have the Hadas Panim. So the Gemara says, because he had a wimpy beard, or he maybe didn't have any one, or whatever, he didn't have any beard, a wimpy beard, so it's like, he didn't have that.
Baby face.
He didn't have that real beauty the Gemara considered it beautiful. In any case, but the story was that Reish Lakish saw Rabbi Yochanan was bathing in the water, and he wanted to go rob him. He wanted to go and take his. I guess he had his wallet with him, and he wanted to go take him. He had take his money. And it says he jumped into this river and this lake to try to get Rabbi Yochanan to get his money. So Rabbi Yochanan saw Reish Lakish jump into the water with such strength, such might, such power. So Rabbi Yochanan said to him, "Your power is for the Torah. You should be using your power for learning Torah." So Reish Lakish answered him, and your beauty should be for women. In other words, your beauty. You should not be a man. Should have been a woman. Your beauty should have been for women. So Rabbi Yochanan says to him, she says, "Well, actually, I have a sister that's even more beautiful than me." And he says, in fact, if you start studying Torah, I will promise you that I will introduce you to my sister and try to work it out. You can marry my sister.
What does the sister think of this?
Well, I don't know. We have to figure out how that works. So Reish Lakish says, "Okay, you got a deal. So Reish Lakish immediately decides that he's going to be studying Torah. He's going to come to yeshiva and learn with Rabbi Yochanan. It says by the time he made this commitment, the commitment of studying Torah, he tried to jump out of the water in the same powerful way, and he couldn't do it anymore. And the Gemara says why? Because the Torah is matisha kecho shel adam. The Torah weakens the power of the man, and the minute that he decided that he was studying Torah, he already lost his power and could no longer jump with such might. Chassidus explains this obviously. It's a very simple explanation. Torah. The reason why the Torah weakens the power of the man is because a part of one's power is from their animal instincts and their yetzer hara. But when someone's studying Torah, it's kind of taming that, and therefore he's not going to have the same oomph, the same powerful, But question, Gil?
I was just going to ask what you answered.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But there's also a practical thing that, like, did you ever notice the Rabbi's hands? You've seen pictures of the Rabbi's hands?
Yes.
His hands are very flat right here. These two muscles are not developed in his hands, so he wasn't grasping things and doing things like this a lot,
Okay.
like active people do. Most people have a rounded muscle right here. The Rabbi's hands are really flat, so you know that he wasn't doing stuff. He was learning Torah.
That's a good point. Well, anyway, that's a practical aspect of it. But in any case, so the bottom line is that I don't know why I mentioned that. So yeah, so I wanted to just point out that I find I've discovered a lot of lack of understanding about this. In fact, there's even people today that think that it's okay to hit your spouse, but it's okay to hit your kids, okay to hit spouses. Maybe your boss might be they might realize that's wrong, or your friend or someone outside. But people think that. So I wanted to discuss a little bit about when is it warranted to hit someone, and when are we allowed to hit someone. I wanted to first point out this is absolutely wrong. People who think that in Russia they hit their wives, or in Morocco they hit their wives, or these ones hit their wives. So I wanted to first of all point out. I printed here this is a page out of the Shulchan Aruch from Rabbi Yosef Karo, written 500 years ago. Written like around 400 something years ago. And I wanted to look. Let's look on page Ayin Gimel. Okay, if it's I know it's very hard to read this because it was a copy from the computer from a database.
Are guys allowed to wrestle?
So no. So the thing is that it's actually considered a sin in the Torah to hurt another individual. It's simple.
Boxing is out there.
I mean for playing. Or
Like
for
when they have these sports arenas and the guys are punching each other, and it's a sport. People play big
so it's consensual. It's a consensual type of a sport. Okay, that's getting a little too advanced for me. I don't know. That's not what I'm talking about.
These guys get concussions. They lose it.
Okay, so that's a good point. So that's a good question. So it does say that if someone says to you, go ahead and hit me. I allow you to hit me. Well, you still have to pay for damages because the person might allow himself to get hit, but Hashem doesn't allow you to hit him because he doesn't own himself.
Allowed to knowingly do anything that harms yourself.
Yeah. So if someone says, "Well, go ahead and hurt me," go ahead. In other words, it doesn't matter if the person allowed it, but the victim in other words, he does not relinquish his right to collect on money or payments or punishment because Hashem doesn't allow it, right? Right? So let's look for a moment on page Ayin Gimel. I just want to point out. This is in the Ramah. Look at it. This is in the bottom of the second to bottom line. It's like right over here. I should have put an arrow there. It's like right. It says Ayin Gimel, right? If inside the box, so look at the second line from the bottom in the Ramah. So it says. So we're on 1, 2, 3. It's like the third word. It says ish. Fourth word. Ish. Ish hamake ishtoi. A man who hits his wife. Aveda hi biyadei. There is a sin that he has a sin in his hand. He is sinning. Kemake chaverei, just like he would be hitting his friend or another person. Vimragel hu bekach, and if he does this commonly, yesh biyad bezdin liyasrei, the bezdin should be punishing him physically. Now, we don't have any corporeal punishment anymore. But in those days when they did, they would give him lashes for this, right? And to excommunicate him for doing so. In all types of forcing, physical pressure, and forcing, or social pressure. And to cause him to force him to swear, he should never do this again. If he does not listen to the words of the Bezdin, we're on the next page, right? So it says that we force him we force him for a get to divorce his wife. But we have to give him one warning, or shtaim or two. Look at this, the line I want to tell you. This is not the way of the Jewish people to hit their wives. This is the way of the Gentiles, the kusim, Gentiles. Okay, so bottom line is halacha. We see in halacha a very clear-cut thing that this is not acceptable. It doesn't matter. They come from Russia, they come from Morocco, they come from wherever they say they come from, and this is what they did, and it's supposed to be. This is what's done in these circles. Well, the Shulchan Aruch doesn't allow this. This is not allowed. This is not acceptable. So this has to be understood. This is not only there's major grounds for divorce, of course, and of course, yeah, it rhymes. That was not intended.
We're making a poll.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to say that this is a very important idea to be understood, and now when it comes to hitting children, so we do find that it says the Shulchan Aruch says you should not hit your child once he becomes bar mitzvah, because you would be causing him to be sinning, because by hitting.
That you could hit him?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to point out what that means. If you hit your child when he's 13, he might hit back, right? And he hits back, then you're majorly causing him to sin, because there is a sin that the Torah says that a man or a woman that hits their parents is a very serious sin. In fact, it's considered guilty of death, right? And it's
Who's
the child, yeah. So a mother or father, yeah, who's what? And it says not only that, but it says that it says that we're the only officially the this violation would only be if there's a bruise or blood has been caused. In other words, so if a kid slaps his mother or his father, that would be a very big sin. But if he causes the parent to bleed, then it would be considered chayiv misa. Now it's interesting that it says that we saw this in the Rambam, that what if the son is a doctor, and his father is coming to him for treatment, and he has to extract blood. So it says, well, go to another doctor, because even though it's for healing purposes, but by the very fact of piercing his skin, causing him to be extracting blood, that was a very serious sin.
If it's an emergency?
If it's an emergency, then obviously Gila is right. If there's no other doctor, then the son has to do it, and because it's because it's an emergency or something that's life threatening. Otherwise, he has to take all other whatever he can do to avoid having to do that. But
if he's over bar mitzvah, if he hits the parent, if he's younger, and the parents are hitting the younger kids, and if they know that the kid's gonna hit back, so they shouldn't.
Okay, so now hold on. That's what Gila asked me this great question. This is what I was hoping to hear from someone. She's like, this is like called a Talmudic question. Like I just said, well, you can't hit your 13-year-old. Well, so she said, well, that means you can hit your 12-year-old. So why is that okay, right? Okay. Well, halachically, if you are trying to educate the mechanech, a child, halachically you are warranted and allowed to use physical punishment, not to hurt. That means that if you are hitting because you are angry, out of rage or out of anger, and you are hitting the kid because you want to hurt them, that's called violence. That's not okay. But if you have a rule in your class, if you're the teacher, and you say, well, if a kid is chutzpahdik, and you take out your we say in Yiddish it was called the kanshek, the belt, and they give him a patch. This is done in a way that it should not. However, that it should not be. It's inflicting certain amount of physical pain, but not to hurt the child, not to cause any harm to the child. That would be considered sinful. Your child is also a person, and by hurting them, if you're really trying to hurt them or wound them, you are wounding another person, right?
Crazy? You're not. You should not hit your kids with a belt.
Okay.
Even if it's not going to cause a bruise.
Okay. Now I want to tell you that what Gila says is a very true point. The Rebbe says this should not be done. This is not for our generation. This is a no-no. Hashkafa wise, it is considered wrong. It's the wrong direction in chinuch. It's not giving the child the right message, and it's not going to be teaching it. You're not gaining from this type of chinuch at all. That's a hashkafa issue. As far as halacha goes, so there is room for this type of raising a child. Again, it's a very important thing to understand. This was done. This not only was done in Jewish circles, but this was done in non-Jewish circles. Obviously, I mean, this was how kids were raised back in school. I mean, not even so long, like around even I was born in the 70s, but not too long before that they were
still legal in some states for schools to
yeah.
punishment. Like in Texas, it's still legal.
Still legal.
I mean, nobody does it, of course, but it's at least not that I know.
Right. So we find that we know that.
Out the country they do.
So we know that we see in Sefer Zechor, it's a famous story of Reb Nissen, who was a Melamed, Chassid the Baal Shem Tov, and he was a Melamed, he was a teacher, and he had on his wall like a ruler, like a belt or a ruler, whatever it was, a konchik was called, and it was on the wall, and that was to be, if the kids made trouble, had chutzpah, whatever it was to be used. But it says Reb Nissen never used it, because he never needed to use it, because he just maybe had to glance at it, and that was enough. He never had to use it. Right. It says, in fact, the story says that his son, Reb Chaim Shol, Reb Yitzchak Shol, it says that his father never hit him as a child, except for once. Once they got a patch, it says, because he was throwing rocks at the chickens, and he was beating up the cat.
And beating up the cat.
Well, he was trying to he loved to torment animals. So there used to be a chicken. He used to throw rocks at the chicken, and he didn't understand. As a little boy, he didn't understand that a cat is also a living thing. So he said he always did this, and his father told him not to, and he did it. And finally, one day, he did it. His father told him that he's not acceptable, and he got a punishment. So he said he took him and he put him on his lap, and he gave him a patch, of course. And Yitzchak Shol said it was the only time he ever got hit by his father his whole life. Later it says he went later on. He was so upset about it. He felt so terrible, and so later this is, by the way, this is written by the previous Rabbi in the book of Sefer Zechor. I think we have it here in the library over there in the memoirs. So later he says he saw his father was crying in his room, and it says he was very he felt very bad. He realized his father was crying because his father was crying because he had hurt his kid or because whatever. So the father said. So Yitzchak Shol came to his father and said, I'm very sorry, Tati, I'll never do this again. So the father said, I'm not crying because you sinned. You didn't do anything wrong. You're a child. You're not responsible for your actions. I'm not crying. I'm not upset at myself because I tried my best to educate you, to raise you. I'm crying because I'm imagining what type of a cruel person you're going to be when you grow up if you could do this to an animal. So. Anyway, so he says that Rabbi Yitzchak Shol was saying that that was very powerful at a moment in his life. But anyways, we see from the story, and we see also very clearly in Talmudic times, a very clear thing that yes, they used to patch kids. They did that. Famous story.
Let's say if your kid's in school and they pinch another kid, should you pinch him when he gets home? And say, you like it?
No. So the Rebbe says that we are in our generation. It is not acceptable to harm a person in any way, to hurt a person physically. The Rebbe says that you're doing so by if you punish your child by giving him a patch, whether it's in a classroom or in your house. The Rebbe said what you're telling him is that it's okay that when there's a case where someone wrongs you, it's okay to hit them. And I think the reason I understand it like this. I understand that when Reb Nissen had to hurt his son Yitzchak Shol, when he had to take his son and give him a patch with the konchik, he did that. He did it out of love. He was not angry at him. He didn't lose himself. He didn't lose composure. He was simply trying to teach his son something.
Especially if it involves the animals, because every article I've ever read about sociopaths says that they start off with animals, and if people don't catch it and intervene and really try to reach them, they have a special power.
That's true. But
they have special brain chemistry.
That's true. But I'm not even that she's getting to the reason why he did it. I'm not talking about the reason. I'm talking about what he did. Reb Nissen spanked his child with the konchik. He did it as a totally cold because this child needed to be taught something, a message. Right. Unfortunately, we are not at that level. When we get angry at our kids, we're angry at them. It's like, you little brat. I'm gonna just So because we're angry, So the message, the message is violence.
Right.
It's not going to be any. There's nothing positive to come out.
Express your anger, and that will somehow fix things, which it never does.
Exactly right. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, like, it says that it's like we see in Tanya. Tanya says whoever gets angry at another person or in anything is like he's serving idolatry. Anger is a no-no. Now, well, people get angry. People get ticked off. They just we get I learned recently in a very interesting thing. In Hebrew there's a word called ka'as. Ka'as means anger. And then there's a word called kpeda. Kpeda means makpid. Like we say, makpid means like for example, we learned in Hilchot Shabbos. Are you makpid? Makpid means makpid really means are you careful about something? Like, are you so if you dust off if there's some water on your clothing you're dusting it off. Let's say it's so we say, well, if you're makpid not to walk outside with wetness, then by doing that would be asur on Shabbos. So we find that makpid means being careful about something. Really, the word kpeda means not just careful, sensitive, but it means angry. So, for example, we say in Hebrew a kaptan. A kaptan is someone who gets angry. It says kohanim. The kohanim are kapdanim. They have like a anger to them. They get angry faster than most people. One of the reasons it says in the Gemara that I don't know the reason. It says that when a kohen to get to his wife, it's much more complicated than regular persons get back in the ancient times, because the Kohanim tend to be more angry than other people, and they might be quicker to want to get divorced faster. So we need to make it more difficult for them to get divorced, so that maybe they'll cool down before they. But the thing is, so the Alter Rebbe is a very beautiful thing about the difference of kpeda and kas. I never understood this. I always, learning Hebrew and learning also in English, there's different subtleties and different words that mean different things. So kpeda means it's a mental anger. It's like if someone did something wrong to you and you were makped, you had a kpeda. You don't have to be angry at them, like you want to get But kpeda means that I was sensitive to that. That I was makped. So in other words, if you insult someone and the person has a kpeda means that person was angry or it was insulted. He might not be angry at you. Kas means emotional anger. Kas means when the kpeda, when that concept of sensitivity of being insulted or that mental or that the intellectual concept of being angry goes down into your heart and it gets you all flustered and all worked up. One of the reasons why the Gemara says that it says it's not good for a husband to talk to his wife about it says al tabasicha meisha, right? It says about what, right? So it says one of the reasons it says do not indulge in excessive talk with a woman, right? So I suppose so many So I've discussed with you many times this idea. But one of the things it says is commenters say you see what happens is like this when the husband has something happen. The husband is men in a way. So women are generally more emotional than men, right? That's why it says that a woman is more. It says her tears are quicker to flow. Women are more easily embarrassed. Like that's why it says if if two poor people come to you and they're both equally poor and both of them need money for clothing, so it says you give the woman first. Unless there's actually in Shulchan there's a whole seder of who gets priority. For example, it says someone from your city comes before someone who's outside your city. Because those from your city come first because you have responsibility of your community before someone else's community, right? But then there's or let's say your relative. Let's say you have a cousin who's poor and you have someone who's not related to you who's poor. Well, you start with your cousin because your cousin he takes precedent because he's your relative, right?
Even if he's a guy and the other one's a girl.
Okay, so I'll tell you the truth. I tell you the truth. We have to go and look at these halachas more clearly because there's a whole list of these laws. It's not so simple. There are halachas about this. Who comes first? In a case where I'm sorry. Yeah. So now, the laws of tzedakah. So now, when it comes to clothing someone, it says a woman comes first because her embarrassment, her shame is more than the man, and for that reason, it's more of a sensitive issue, and the woman will come first. But I'm just mentioning this because it says that you see. When a man has an issue with another guy or someone else, and he gets, so it might be in the level of a kpeda. It might be like he's upset at him. He's but it might not have come down trickle down into feelings. But when a woman gets involved, it's like, you know what he did to you, or are you? And women get flared up because they're very emotional, and that will affect the husband. The husband will come back and want to punch out this perpetrator because it might not have gotten had he not discussed it with his wife. It wouldn't have gotten so emotionally charged up. That's one of the. But anyway, so this without the Rabbi said about kpeda and kas. Kas is when it's emotional anger. Kpeda is when it's only psychological or mental anger.
Like frustration, kind of.
No, it's like for example, like if someone does something to you that was rude to you. So okay, you're not upset at them. Let's say someone that kind of slighted you. Okay, you're not like it's not like you're brooding over this. It's not like you're really thinking of it. It's not like it's not like you're angry, but they slighted you. So you have a
Anger under control.
No, but it's anger that didn't get into your heart yet.
Intellectual anger that's under control. That didn't yet get right.
Right. In other words, it hasn't. Like we say, like
you're not going to do something about it physically.
Right. We say that. Right. The difference that we say. Right. There's machshava. There's your thoughts, and then there's seichel and midos. Right. So someone has. So for example, someone might have something, a concept that in your intellect, that it might be in your intellect, your moicha, in your mind, but it might not have been consciously come down to your heart yet to start feeling charged up about it. Let's say, for example, Judaism. Many Jews, many people I know, for example, that might be in their brain, in their mind, they're inspired. They know that Yiddishkeit is the right thing. They know that Torah mitzvah is the right way. They've been shown. They believe in it. Every Jew really innately believes in Hashem, and when we learn Torah, we know that this is right. But sometimes it remains in your mind. It doesn't come down to your heart. Sometimes it doesn't. Why is it that it won't affect the person to really change? Because it might not be processed. It might not be coming down into his midos, his feelings. So when it doesn't come down into your feelings, you might not be acting on that. It might just be you learn the great Maimer Chassidus. You learn incredible things. You learn a lot of incredible things in Hashem's will and wisdom. But if it hasn't come down into your emotions, it didn't give birth to emotions that it's not really going to change you because you're not going to act upon that inspiration. It's still a mental form of inspiration. So in order to be, that's what we say is, the Chassidus explains the whole idea of the Exodus from Egypt, that it says that, and also childbirth, it says, it says that we say husband and wife, the man and the woman is like a wisdom and understanding, Chachma and Bina. And the Jewish people were in exile, they were in slavery in Egypt. So Mitzrayim, it says, the word Mitzrayim means Meitzar mi. It's the Meitzar. It's like a tight spot. So it says that's kind of like the neck. Which is why the word paroi, if you spell it backwards, means oiref, the neck, right? Because it says that the neck is the separation between your mind and your heart. So in other words, the mind, all of this great understanding of Hashem was in the mind, but the neck, the meitzar, the boundary, the tight spot was not allowing it to come down to the heart to give birth to emotional inspiration. And that was the parah who was standing upon the river. It says a parah oimid al hanor. The river represents bina, understanding, and he was not allowing this flow to be born, which is why the Exodus from Egypt was compared to the birth of a child, the birth of the Jewish people, because the Exodus represented where now we can get through this restriction. We can go down into the heart, and now we can give birth to midah, to avas Hashem, and yiras Hashem, love of Hashem, and fear of Hashem, and that's represented by the birth of the Jewish people. But anyways, question.
Is it true that a guy shouldn't be with the delivery?
That's a good point. So,
Shouldn't, right?
yeah, definitely not.
Delivery.
Definitely not. Yeah, the Rebbe says definitely. The Rebbe says definitely not, and it's a halach. The Rebbe says halachically, it would not be considered a.
Did you tell us that?
Probably did. Yeah, probably.
Because it's unattractive.
No, because a man's not allowed to see. A man is not allowed to see his wife when she's having a baby. She's not allowed to see her. He's not allowed to be to see her like that.
Do you have a male doctor?
A male doctor is okay because a male doctor is he's a medical professional and he's doing something for a medical reason. So yes, if the doctor if the doctor is a man is better than the doctor who might be a woman, you definitely want to go with the male doctor for sure. The male doctor again, it's like we said before that, for example, a man is who's touching a woman's body, for example, is not sneeze, but for the doctor it needs to deliver a baby or whatever, so it's a totally medical thing. There's no element of not sneeze there because it's strictly a medical concept.
Self-defense. Self-defense. Somebody's going to kill you, or they're not sure if they're going to kill you.
Right, you have to hit them.
So you can start hitting them.
Of course, yeah.
Do you have to worry that you might kill them? I mean, or
No, because we know that the Torah tells us if someone is coming to hurt you, you have to assume that they're trying, if they're trying to kill you, then you kill them first. If in other words, if it's not clear if they're not really trying to kill you, they're trying to beat you. I mean, I don't know. It depends. You definitely have to. For sure, you're warranted to strike first, no question. And
strike first.
yes, for sure. It says if someone breaks into your house, you have full right to kill them. And the reason is because if they break in, they're probably expecting that you're probably going to start a fight, and they're probably going to kill you. So you kill them first, even though it's a doubt, you're allowed to kill them. The only case where
I thought it was only at night, like during the day, they assume that. I thought there was some special law that if it happens during the day, they're probably assuming that you're at work, and so you have to handle it a little bit differently.
Well, no. For example, no. So it says, for example, that if it's we find Rashi mentions this. That, for example, if it's a father breaking into his son's house, it says, well, the son in that case, the son would
should have just spanked him when he was young.
Yeah. So in that case, well, then we say the son would have to assume that the father does not want to hurt his son, because it's not normal for a father and he would assume it's only purely for just financial gain and stealing. So in that case, the son would not be allowed to shoot his father down. In any case, but so I guess we're going back to the concept of anger. So anger is bad. It's a bad thing. Anger is wrong. Anger is considered a sin. It's a sin to get angry. And even though it says, the Tanya tells us, Moshe got angry, it says, the Alter Rebbe explains that Moshe Rabbeinu did not get angry. The word Vayikta, Moshe showed his anger to try to make a point to his following.
So it was a display of
The
it.
display, it was not.
So it's okay if you just display your anger, but I'm not really angry.
If someone, if the teacher in the class is saying is showing a angry face or doing something in an angry way to make the student realize something was done wrong, yes, that's okay to do. We have to be careful of this and realize that, we're not all able to do this, because we really are angry. We really are angry, and therefore we really are angry. Who are we fooling exactly? Oh, I'm just fooling, I'm angry. Moshe Rabbeinu was not really angry. Moshe Rabbeinu did not feel himself altogether happy to get angry. He was totally batal to the close.
How do you get out of things?
Okay, so dealing with anger is a very important issue. It's a very incredible and very big job, because it's we know that we all have egos, we all have our baggage. We all try. We have to know that it's a lifelong mission. I said that story the other day about the woman who wanted to call off the engagement because she got angry, and the Rabbi said, "Your children can help you with that." And it's a true thing. Children help you to put things into perspective, to realize that
Or they can make it worse.
Yeah,
That's they make it better.
No, they do make it worse. They make it worse. Then when they make it worse, you realize that there's a lot. It's not. Yeah, it's true. They do make it worse, actually. But
It's like if you want to get out of it, then like you're gonna use them as like you're gonna grow from it. It depends on your perspective.
yeah, but the
That's
thing
what I'm
is,
saying.
Like if you're
Okay,
aware
so
of
for
it.
example, my dad, when he gets angry, he's like angry.
Right.
He's pissed.
right?
He's really,
And all that,
angry.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So that's the thing. So that one of the things it's very important to understand that that getting angry is not a kosher thing to get
So
angry.
what do you do when you get angry? How do you know?
Okay, so first of all, it's very important that we have to understand. First and foremost, every person has to try to find out how can we deal with anger. But number one, it's very important to learn Chassidus. I find it extremely important. If someone's not learning Chassidus, they're learning Musar. Learning something that's more spiritual and teaching us, pointing out the issue. We should first of all understand that it's wrong. It's not good to be angry. Learning Chassidus helps us helps us realize and learn to take things into perspective. So, for example, Tanya says that if someone rear ends your car, for example, or someone hurts you, so the Alter Rebbe explains that was meant to be. Like everything is for. So, in other words, Hashem is creating the world every single second. And when that thing happened, that was meant to be. So by getting angry, you're saying, I don't believe that it was meant to be, or I don't believe that, or in other words, I believe that I am the center of the universe. I'm the only true existence, and anything that interferes with my comfort zone is the biggest tragedy that could be in my life, and therefore my anger by definition is ego.
But getting angry, you can say the same thing about getting angry. It's meant to be.
Yes, it is. That's very true. It is meant to be. But you know what? The guy who hit a drunken driver crashed into the car. So I can go ahead. That drunken driver is going to be held accountable. He has to be punished. Yeah. It was meant to be. So he has to get punished. But it was meant to be. If I get angry, that might be meant to, but I can be punished for getting angry.
Sometimes the anger helps you to do things that bring the punishment. Otherwise, it might not happen. The anger can be the power, the emotional motor that drives change in the physical reality that brings people to justice.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point. You know, I want to tell you something. You know, I have a guy that I was kind of sent to yeshiva. I got him involved in Judaism. But you know how he got started off? Two guys. One guy got started off in the Kabbalah Center. The other guy started in a Reform temple. That's how he went to a Reform temple. Another guy that I know actually went to a church and he got inspired there. And then so the church, the Reform temple, the Kabbalah Center, they're meant to be there because they're all bringing people back, right? They're all The answer is like this: just because something is a conduit to change something good doesn't mean that it in itself is good. Is good. Sometimes you have some people who may do great things in their life because they might have had very terrible experiences in their life, but that prompted them, that inspired them to send them, to find greater heights. It doesn't mean that those wrong things are good. It doesn't justify. So, if your anger helps you in a certain matter, it doesn't mean that the anger was. It's like kind of like the famous thing. I don't know if you guys, the Piamenta brothers. You know the Piamenta brothers, famous. Piamenta, Rabbi Piamenta, two Jewish singers. They were. Unfortunately, Yossi just passed away. I think a few years ago. Yossi Piamenta here in Flatbush, I think. The two young men that became religious back in a long time ago, like when I was a kid, probably. They were singers in Israel. They were like Israeli singers. They became Lubavitch, and they started singing religious, only religious songs. And a lot of the songs you might hear today come from them. That but one of them recently, Yossi, I think had unfortunately passed away a few years ago. It was Yana Machla. But they wrote a song. I don't know how long ago this was. It was like, it goes like this: Mitzvah gereres mitzvah. A mitzvah brings us to do another mitzvah, right? But then they said, an avera, a sin, brings to another avera. They said, but is it possible that a mitzvah, that an avera can bring to a mitzvah? So it's a good question, right? So yes, then they got about two stories that we find that avera brought to a mitzvah, right? And they had the story that a guy, went to this, was doing something not good. He ended up going to this beach or something, and I don't know exactly what. And because he was over there, whatever it was, maybe he went to Las Vegas or something that not really very kosher place, but he was there. He met a Lubavitcher, and Lubavitcher put on tefillin with him and brought him back to Judaism. So because he did the Aveda, so now you know what I'm saying? It's the famous story. I think I probably said it before. The Baal Shem Tov one time was taking his students out into the middle of the forest, and in the middle of the forest, they stopped in the middle of a clearing, and the Baal Shem Tov sat down on the rock and said, "Who has some mashke? I want to say l'chaim." So okay, so they got some mashke, got some vodka, and he said l'chaim. He made a bracha, and then they're like, what happened all of a sudden in the middle of the forest? Baal Shem Tov wanted to say l'chaim. So he said, okay, well, I'll tell you the truth. It's we just came to a special place. I felt this energy, and I felt I had to say l'chaim here. So what's the energy? What happened? So he says, well, a long time ago, there was a couple. There was a Jewish couple, and the man was a what do you call that? He was a tailor. And but he was kind of like a little bit of a nebuch. He kind of he just said he wanted to learn Torah the whole day. But so his wife was the one doing the business, and she was running the shop. And one time, a priest comes there. Priest. Now in those days, priests were very wealthy. They were rich. The priest comes and is like, I need a big job done. Like I'm doing some sort of big major thing. I need a lot of clothing, a lot of tapestries. It's going to take probably a few months of work. So the wife comes running. Oh, come on! We have a lot of money here to make. And she takes her husband by his lapel, drags him out there. Close your Gemara. Get it. So he comes out, and he's like, okay. The priest makes up to. Okay, they're gonna. I need you to come with me now, and we're gonna do a lot of work, and then I'll pay you a lot of money. So no problem. The guy goes with her. I'm sorry. The guy goes with the priest, and he goes with the priest on his wagon, and they're going. And he's supposed to come back in a few months. In the meantime, unfortunately, the priest has this opportunity. Oh, here's this Jewish guy, and they love Jews. They just love to get Jews. So he's trying to work on this Jew. I'm going to get this Jew to come to my church and to convert him, to baptize him. So he's working on him the whole. He's there for a few months, and unfortunately, the priest was very successful, very powerful, and the Jew succumbed. And he's succumbed to getting schlepped into this terrible thing. And it's like, he says, not only that, I'm going to make you rich, and you can marry my daughter. And his daughter was,
Wait, the priest had a daughter?
Yeah, the priest had a daughter. And
Wait a second here.
So the guy said, now this guy
It's not a normal priest, I just want to say.
No,
oh, he was a Protestant, yeah. So
it's not a,
yeah.
Okay.
So now the Jewish guy now the Jewish guy is like totally like getting brainwashed now, and he's like, okay, so that he's not going to go back to his so he never went. So now he goes now and he gets baptized, becomes Christian, and now marries the priest's daughter.
Oh, dear.
Okay. In the meantime, he's like, and the first wife, I don't know what happened. She never got a get. It's a very sad, very tragic story. In the meantime, the guy is like, he's now very rich. He's married to this Christian girl. He's living as a Christian, and he's living in this big estate. And he's very rich and everything. And Baal Shem Tov continues the story that he has now kids with this woman, and of course, and he's living in this. One day he's taking a walk in his backyard, and it's like in the forest back of his estate. He's very someplace in Europe, and he hears crying. He's crying. So he's like, what's going on over there? So he goes back and looking where the crying comes from. He goes in this forest. He's like running and walking and following his voice until he finally comes to a clearing in the middle of the forest, and he sees a man with like a white beard with a talus sitting on a log or on a tree stump, and is like saying Tillim and crying. So he's like, "What are you doing over here? What is this?" So the guy says, "I am a Jew. And today's Yom Kippur, and it's Yom Kippur, and I'm a Jew." So the guy suddenly remembers, 30 years ago that he was also a Jew, and it's like it's Yom Kippur today, the holiest day of the year, it's Holy Yom Kippur, and suddenly it breaks through him. He's like so inspired from this, and he just totally. So and he asks the man. The man happens to be Eliyahu Hanavi or something, on whoever he was, and it's like so he says, "What should I do?" He says, "Just go," and and he basically, the guy absconds, runs. He knows he can't come back to his family because he'll get killed, he'll get whatever, and he runs away and does tshuva and becomes a tzaddik.
Does he ever go back to his
I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know the details. I heard the story from Rabbi Zarchi in the so then, now in the meantime, the Christian wife, right, the non-Jewish wife, her husband doesn't come back. One day he just absconded and just never showed up. So she's like, weeks and weeks pass by. Her father, the priest, is like sending out search parties, and they're all looking, and the guy's just totally gone. He's just absconded. He's gone, and so the woman remains without a husband. Right? She's So one day she's walking in the forest, kind of thinking about her fate and how tragic it is, and she was crying. So she's looking, following the crying, and she comes to the clearing, and she sees a guy in a talus, an old man with a white beard. She says, "What is this?" And the guy says, "I'm a Jew, and today's Yom Kippur." So this woman is like, "Wow." And he says, "What's Yom Kippur?" Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. And she was so emotional, and she was so inspired. She says, "You know what? My husband was a Jew, and this is probably what happened to him. He probably was like out back here, and he got inspired from this guy, or I don't know, Yom Kippur, and he became Jew, and he wanted to go back to becoming Jewish, and that's probably what happened. He probably ran away, and she got so inspired from this that she decided that she's also going to become a Jew. So she decided that she's taking off. She can't go back to her family. She just absconds. Her father get mad and kill him. I don't know, maybe the kids were grown already. I don't know about the kids. So she's like, it doesn't really matter all the details. So she runs away. So she runs away, and she goes and she finds a shul somewhere, and she does a conversion. She becomes a tzaddikus, and that's the story. I don't know.
Does she ever meet up with the husband?
No, let's not get into details. No. You're you're ruining the story. No. Okay, so they're all there. Anyways, now the end of this story gets a little wacky because now.
That story is already wacky.
Yeah, now listen. So now the priest he lost his son-in-law, he lost his daughter, and now he's here all by. And one day he's back in the forest somewhere, and he suddenly hears crying, and he goes and hears, and he sees the guy sitting on a log, and says, "What is going on? What is this? What are you doing?" And the guy says, "I'm a Jew, and today's Yom Kippur." And he also starts to get inspired. He's like, "Wow, that's my son-in-law was a Jew, and I finagled him into." And that's probably what happened. And he also gets inspired and runs off somewhere and decides to convert. And he also dies as a Jew and dies as a tzaddik. About tshuva tzaddik. Baal Shem Tov said. So the students were all waiting to hear the punchline. So what? So why we stop here? What? So he said. So Baal Shem Tov said, well, there became a big ruckus in heaven. It was a big confusion. Why? Because when these people died, when the original tailor, right, he died, and then the wives died too, right? All the wives died, everyone died, and now there's a big problem. What's the problem? The problem is that in heaven it became a big problem because when people, and I guess when people die, there's like they can be with their spouses. Even though I said in my last class that officially halachically when people die, they dissolve their marriage, but spiritually I guess there's some sort of concept of, so now especially at tzaddik it says at tzaddik, so the wife gets to share in his Gan Eden. Like for example, one of the reasons we find this in the Gemara that it says when a Talmid Chacham or tzaddik passed away, he did so many incredible things in his life and all of his Torah he studied. So the wife who had to take care of the kids and just cook food, like, so what is she? A shmata? Like her husband gets all of his Gan Eden. What does she get? So it says, well, yeah, she shares because her husband, every mitzvah that her husband did, he put on the tefillin, and all of his Torah he studied, she's together with him. They're one thing, so she gets to share in his Gan Eden, right? So in the meantime, heaven became a big problem because now the first wife said, well, this is my husband. He never gave me a get, so he's my husband. I should be with him in the afterlife. And now the new wife said,
no, but it doesn't count because
I'm the reason he did.
The new wife was like, well, but he did tshuva because of me.
Right.
Because why did he tshuva? Because he was married to a non-Jewish woman, and he was so upset, and he was so like spiritually, and that's what prompted him to do tshuva. So I should be with him in the afterlife. So, okay, so now
Maybe he can have more than one wife in the afterlife.
okay, so the
Maybe
end.
he could spend half.
Okay,
the week
so the Baal
with
Shem
one
Tov
wife.
said. So the Baal Shem Tov said that they get who was the one that won this thing? The second. Why? Because the first one, she was the one that brought him out to the galach. She schlepped him. She took him out to a priest, and the second one sent him to Eliyahu Hanavi. Right? In other words, the first one, yeah, she was a Jewish wife. She was actually really married to him, but she took her husband and brought him to go to live with a priest for a few months. That's how the whole thing began, right? And the second wife, it was because of his spiritual agony of being married to a non-Jewish woman living as a non-Jew. So that's what prompted him to go and to do tshuva, right? So therefore, the second one won. So the Baal Shem Tov finishes the story, and the students are like, okay, so what are we doing here now? Like, what happened in this place? So Baal Shem Tov said, oh, this location right now where we're at now. The reason I'm saying stories is because under this rock or right over here in the clearing, the priest is buried. The original, the priest who became, he was the one that he converted to Judaism. This is where he's buried. This happened hundreds of years ago, whatever. But here's where he's buried. And I felt that, so I want to say l'chaim at his gravesite. Right? So that was the story. So I'm just trying to figure out the story. I know I'm going to finish because the next
But the
well,
wife,
the
first wife also though, she's the reason why the priest adds.
Okay. So I'm just answering. This is my answer to Elisheva. So Elisheva is like, well, is my anger a good thing? So the point is, your anger is a good thing. Well, yeah, the priest was a good man. I mean, he made his son-in-law become a tzaddik. I mean, so the answer is, a sin. Can the sin bring us to a mitzvah? Well, after the fact, if it does that, then we could look back and say, well, everything was meant to be. But a sin is a sin. And it's not, and it was not kosher to go with the priest or to convert to Christianity or to marry the non-Jewish woman. Those are all bad things. And it's not kosher to go to the Reform Temple or to go to the church, wherever it was that people got inspired that ended up with Rabbi Green and became from Jews. All that might be, they were catalysts. Are we going to go and say, well, everyone should be going to the Reform or to the church to get inspired? No, so we have to understand that everything is meant to be. It's true.
And Hashem controls every single thing that happens.
Yeah, but Hashem.
That was maybe he saw that's the way.
Yeah, but Hashem doesn't.
He's going to reach this neshama and that.
Yeah, but Hashem doesn't. Yeah, but you had free choice. It could happen another way too. You had free choice. In other words, you got angry. You could have controlled your anger, and that was wrong. You didn't. Now the fact that something good happened out of it, it's. I'm not saying. Good can happen. If it was meant to be, it's right. That's why I always tell people, if someone's down and out, someone is maybe a druggie or an alcoholic, and they're the lowest level of their life. And it was all because it was all their fault. He was the one that took drugs. He was the one that destroyed his life. He destroyed his marriage, his family. He's all by himself, living on the street. Should he be depressed? Look what he did to himself. It was all him. Well, he says, no, it was meant to be. It was all meant to be. Is he responsible for his actions? Yes, he's responsible. But he can't be depressed about it because it was meant to be. You get it? It was meant to be. He's going to be punishable for his actions. And he has to be true and it's correct his actions. But it doesn't mean you should be depressed about it because the state that you are in, that was meant to be. You had a choice, and you will pay for the choice, and you should correct that choice, and you should try to choose correctly. But to get depressed about the wrong choice, that's another.
Zara, just like anger is.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna stop here.